This is the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast.
Recording is on, and we've got a pair of chapters today to get through.
Boy, do we.
Boy, do we. This is like everyone hashes on the Malden plot with Perrin. This is so much worse. This is really the part of Perrin. Like, the Malden plot was only 6 chapters altogether, spread across like 4 books. Like, it's just not very much content. This going back and forth on Perrin over and over and over again, it's too much. It's too much. We've moved beyond this. The Wolfhead banner doesn't need to be taken down again. We've moved beyond it, but yet we're doing it. We're doing it in these chapters. We're taking down the Wolfhead banner yet again.
Ah! I don't even have words. I just have screaming.
This is going to be the tone of the podcast. If you do not want to listen to the tone of that podcast, please exit left.
Please just spare yourselves.
We will be back next chapter with a more positive tone. But oh my god, except for the little Lan segue, which even that was like pretty mid. These are hard chapters to get through.
Next week we'll get to Matt and we'll have more fun, I promise. But for now, buckle down, gird your loins, get a stick to bite on. We got to do this.
Queen Morgase, would you care to read us into these chapters?
Oh, God, I'm just so much focusing on Perrin being the problem. I'm waiting for you to do the honors. Ugh, all right.
Just because it might as well be Perrin's POV, but somehow it's Morgase's POV.
It's different. Novelty.
You get to think about tea a little bit. Honestly, the most entertaining part of the chapter for me is her serving tea and her little thoughts about how to do it best and what people's preferences are.
Which I just don't care for, shall we say. Okay, let's do the read-in and then...
Okay. We'll talk about it when we get there.
Chapter 6, Questioning Intentions. And our symbol is the blacksmith's puzzle. Morgase Tricand, once Queen of Andor, served tea. She moved from person to person in the large pavilion Perrin had taken from Malden. It had sides that could be rolled up and no tent floor. Large though the tent was, there was barely enough room for all who had wanted to attend the meeting. Perrin and Fael were there, of course, sitting on the ground. Next to them sat golden-eyed Elias and Tam Althor, the simple farmer with the broad shoulders and the calm manners. Was this man really the father of the Dragon Reborn? Of course, Morgase had seen Rand al'Thor once, and the boy hadn't looked much more than a farmer himself. Beside Tam sat Perrin's dusty secretary, Sebin Balwer. How much did Perrin know of his past? Jur Grady was there also, wearing his black coat with a silver sword pin on the collar. His leathery farmer's face was hollow-eyed and still pale from the sickness he'd suffered recently. Niald, the other Ashaman, was not there. He hadn't yet recovered from his snake bites. All 3 Aes Sedai were there. Seonid and Masuri sat with the Wise Ones, and Anora sat beside Berelain, occasionally shooting glances at the 6 Wise Ones. Galien sat on Berelain's other side. Across from them sat Alejandra and Arganda. The officers made Morgase think of Gareth Bryn. She hadn't seen him in a long while, not since she'd exiled him for reasons she still couldn't quite explain. Very little about that time in her life made sense to her now. Had she really been so infatuated with a man she'd banished Aemlyn and Elorian? Anyway, those days were gone. Now Morgase picked her way carefully through the room and saw that people's cups were kept full. It was a long read-in, but I just wanted to show off how many names I could get right. So
I was gonna say, is that just a list of that's a name recap list right off the top? Just check. Like, I haven't forgotten about these characters, like, and with a little bit of a recap thrown in there.
Yeah, it was just so many names because she's a panning shot across the entire tent. It's a perfect POV to get away with doing that sort of a listicle who's who,
I guess. Oof. I do like her POV, she's not sure why she did what she did back in Andor. They're making a point of that she's not aware of the compulsion. She's not aware that she was under the control of Ravine the whole time.
It really reminded me of the line that Gawain was saying in the last episode about not thinking about his mother very much. It was kind of almost the same kind of a sentiment of just like, there's this weird fuzzy blank spot in my past that I don't really think about much. Like, she's thinking about it more than Gawain is thinking about his equivalent whole, but it kind of reminded me of that. Like, this is what post-compulsion looks like.
Yeah. I'm just saying the Gawain compulsion
not
theory.
Not the weakest theory
it's got
ever.
legs.
I've heard worse from you.
Oh, God, I'm so sorry. I know. I've come up with some stinkers in my day. Whew, but you try talking as many hours as we do and don't come up with a few bad ideas.
Exactly. So, yeah, she's doing tea while we start out with a very reasonable discussion about picking up on the Blight village and how did the burning of that go before we get into ridiculous nonsense. But she's doing tea throughout the whole thing. And
skirts dividing for riding.
Yep. Not pants.
But they're not pants.
Yeah, Morgase thinks about how her life is basically the same as being at the Shadow Camp, except not being beaten, which I'm like, great. Glad we're not going to spend huge amounts of pages on that. Right?
Yeah.
Oh, well.
Oh, being an indentured servant, just like being a slave without the beatings. Woohoo! Let's talk about capitalism.
She feels really good about having value, because she's able to contribute and like bring value to the society through selling of her labor. She feels like a person. I don't love it. I don't love her finding her life purpose through serving tea and being married. But at the same time, as a rebound from being queen, I do kind of get it.
But she's also being like, the better I serve tea, the closer I get to power. The closer I get to power, the more I know about what's going on. The more I know about what's going on, the more I can have an influence. This woman does not want to step away from power.
No. But much like Perrin, she's going to spend a lot of time telling us that she wants to step away from power.
Yeah. Oh, totally.
She really is a great advisor to Perrin. They're well matched.
Does she ever actually advise him? Doesn't she just like go away once he learns that she's...
She provides some pretty cogent advice during the whole Galad thing. Like, she's running interference with both camps pretty solidly. And I think she also gives him some advice before he meets Elaine and then puts in a good word with him with Elaine. Like, she does advisory stuff with him. I almost think she should stay with him long term, in his Manetheren court. Maybe that would be a good thing.
I mean, I think in the last books, that's technically, Elaine says you are the steward. You're going to be my diplomat to the steward of the Two Rivers, who is Perrin, right? So yeah, she's basically going to be hanging out with Perrin.
So there, she is, exactly. She is well on her way to becoming a good advisor to Perrin.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think that's what her journey is supposed to be about, right? Is this like person who was a queen, in the similar way that Suan, who was humbled and then came back up and became advisor to Egwene, right? That's sort of Morgase's story.
Sure.
A different leader, a different one of our Two Rivers Five, right? Like,
because it always has to be one of the Two Rivers Five.
That's Taviran. Yeah, just little things like Alejandra expected her cup to be full. I think those are a little clever, like just sort of little character moments about who they are and like the way they like their tea, the way Perrin like gestures around and can knock it over and be careless, and the way the one likes the Masuri likes to sip her tea when she's nervous. Like there's a lot of good examples of these little ticks about these people. I like that rounds up those side characters. It gives them a little more personality rather than Five Aes Sedai stood in a crowd to open the gateway whenever Perrin needed it. So yeah, I like that. That's why it's my favorite part of this chapter.
Sure. And there's also the whole weird thing with Alejandra where, like, Alejandra was really haughty during Malden, but now she feels really uncertain about their relationship, whereas Fael understood how leadership worked and came out of Malden understanding how to go back into the hierarchy. And it's just, again, Morgase is a shrewd political operator, so her thoughts on that are kind of clear and interesting to be in the head of. But yeah, she's making a bunch of observations and then telling herself to stop cataloging all that information.
Because it's as natural as breathing. That's politics to her, right? Is recognizing what everyone's motivations are, what they want to do. It's demonstrating that she's a good politician. There's the plot line where Perrin keeps getting more recruits and he keeps wanting to turn them away, but they keep staying because Taviran needs troops, and I wish he would just accept that instead of constantly trying to send people away.
I mean, he even manages to insult Barrelane in the course of all this. Like, I need to get rid of you, you, and you. And Barrelane's, I didn't realize you needed to get rid of me, given that I just helped you retrieve your wife from a war camp. Confusing turn of events and turn of feelings, Mr. Leader, not a leader. And I mean, really, that goes for so many of them, right? Like, and it turns out that the math that he can't get rid of them through gateways, but he keeps recruiting people and trying to get rid of them. And it's like, why are you getting rid of people? This is rude and ineffective. It's stupid. Stop it.
Because he's got what, like 20,000 people, I think is the number?
Something like that. And he's trying to send them all back and put it all back the way it was so that way the last battle can just proceed without him. And it's like, you have a giant army of people who want to be here. This is a ridiculous thing for us to spend so many pages on.
Right. No, go follow Rand if you want to fight. You follow Rand. We are following Rand through you. Like, that's
your job as one of the three. It's literally your job. And you've known this since book 1. Moraine has been telling you that the three of you are important. Like, obviously, this is your role.
And this is why I think this part of Perrin is really poorly written, right? We forgive him for some of the later, like, we like the teleporting, Teleron Riyadh, magic stuff, whatever. That's fun. This is hard because this feels like Perrin, again, is reverting. Matt reverted. I feel like all the characters reverted back to, like, book 5, maybe, characters.
He's still fighting the banner that he's been using for multiple campaigns since book 5. Ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, now he insists on burning it. And of course, because plot, it doesn't actually get burned. He still keeps one, and he's happy that he has it later because, this was all just regression to let Sanderson feel comfortable writing the actual progressed Perrin.
He ignores Tam's advice.
He doesn't consult with Fael.
No. He tells them to go follow Rand. And then... yeah, and so then finally they're like, okay, we can't send everybody away. What can we do with gateways? And so then he starts sort of going, but it's like, okay, you just burned your banner and now you're commanding them and telling them what to do with their gateways and where to send people and how to basically deploy the forces. What are you doing? Like, why are you, if you're not going to be the leader, stop acting like one.
Right. He's like, well, my Ashaman can't do this and my Ashaman can't do that. And I don't want this happening to all these other people. And I can't leave Gil and the others. Why are you taking so much command while burning your banners? This was really cute in book 4 when you had just started doing it, but like it is old now.
So they send some messengers to Rand, hopefully asking for more Ashaman through the gateways.
Balwer really wants to get someone to Kyrian and angles for that, and it's a whole thing.
Himself, yeah.
And then we introduce the concept of circles because it's really late in the series to not be talking about circles.
Right. It's just an assumption now that information is spread. Like, because all the Aes Sedai know about it, right? So they've just not been talking about it at this point.
Yeah, it's a silly thing to not be talking about. So we're talking about it. Yay, good, excellent. This is the beginning of getting us to Alanir, right? Yes, it gives us bigger gateways, but it also gives us magic hammers.
Totally. And Pavara and Andral, right? That whole relationship is very much opens, they form a circle, and that's what triggers their double bonding.
Mm-hmm, yeah. And then Idara gives Perrin such a great line. You hardly seem interested in your position as a chief most of the time. Respect is a thing earned and not demanded.
Yeah.
Because
love that burn.
Exactly what we've been saying. Like, Perrin, you're both abdicating responsibility and assuming it at the same time. This is ridiculous. The Aiel agree with us. So again, it's like, Sanderson, why are you doing this? You clearly know this is annoying because you have the Aiel pointing out that it's annoying. So why are you subjecting us to this?
Do you think there's any reason for Balwer to want to go to Kyrian other than just he has information and contacts there?
Yeah, I think he knows that there's a lot of mail waiting for him that will catch him up on world events in Kyrian because of how his agents are spread out. I don't think it's anything particularly plot relevant. It's just how his network is set up. And then Seonid also really wants to go to Kyrian for some reason. And Fael sends a specific member of Cha Fael. It's like a whole D&D raiding party is going to do some reconnaissance in Kyrian.
Let's look up Seonid and see if we can figure out what is going on with her.
Oh yeah, Balwer says he wants to go to the school that Rand established. I bet he has so many eyes and ears at that school. Or at like the baker shop right next door to the school, obviously, because subtlety.
Don't have a lot with Seonid's motivations. She just seems to like doing adventure-y stuff. She's a green. She likes to be on adventures.
She's got 2 warders and the love of travel or whatever. It's good to go.
She always just seems to be like one of those Aes Sedai who's like, yeah, let's go. I'm fighting the last battle. Sweet. All right. Perrin, you're a leader? Okay, follow you right there.
Love to see it.
She's one of the good ones.
Morgase wonders about Balwer potentially betraying her to Perrin and thinking about how she should have, asked the price of his silence. And we know that Balwer just very quietly and unobtrusively never mentioned it once because he has a weird code of honor as well as being fine putting all of his skills to use for the White Cloaks for decades.
I think it's this idea of my network didn't tell me that. That's personal knowledge. I keep my secrets.
Okay, that could be the line he's drawing. He's like, if I got it through a spy, it's fair game. But if I learned it in personal confidence, then there's a different code.
Right.
I could buy that. I could see that being the weird brain pretzel he goes through.
That's how I've always split that in my head, that why doesn't he say anything? And it's because he was basically part of their group and part of their, he hates the White Cloaks. He hates what the White Cloaks did to them. He's going to, make sure their secrets are kept, enemy of my enemy type situation. Right.
And he had their trust and confidence. Plus, he knows that, she abdicated. That became knowledge to the group eventually, right?
Right.
She's valueless, and he helped her escape. So it would be a serious breach of trust to then betray her. So, but it makes sense that she suspects him because he's a White Cloak secretary from where she's sitting.
Right. Who's wormed his way into Perrin's thing and is somehow not saying anything, right?
Yeah. I think it's sweet that Balwer never once mentions it to her either. Or not sweet, but it's so interesting, an interesting insight into what his honor code is. He won't put her worries at ease. That's not his job. He'll just keep her secrets.
Is it also possible that Robert Jordan forgot they knew each other and put them in the same room, and then Sanderson had to come back and be like, so yeah, thanks for not mentioning that.
He can't have, because no, the thing that's weird that Sanderson dropped was that Balwer should have known Galad's personal sigil. That's the detail that Sanderson messed up.
Well, it's just the sigil of the Lord Captain Commander, though. And that's just a generic, the presidential seal, right? It's the same for every president.
Yeah, but later they get a letter from Galad, and it's signed with his personal. They're impressed with the seal on the wax. Whatever. It's just, I remember there's a scene later where Balwer's like, oh, I've never seen this one. And I'm like, bullshit. You've absolutely seen Galad's personal sigil before, because he's a White Cloak. He was a White Cloak. He was on the rolls. He was on a hostage list. Niall was threatening Morgase with what could happen to Galad. You absolutely know his personal iconography. But Sanderson forgot about that. Anyway, Morgase thinks about not going to Elaine and Andor.
That's risky.
And then she looks at Talonvor and thinks about how cute he is. And then Perrin just completely poop storms all over that parade in the most awkward and cringy way possible.
Oh, that it's about time you two should be married. It's only Lenny can do that.
Yeah, it's let's put this silliness behind us by ordering you to get married. And it's again, how are you not a leader, sir, if you think you have the right to tell two of your inferiors to just get shacked already? Come on. But yeah, only Lenny can do that. Only Lenny is allowed to say that and not be a complete putz. And honestly, I don't even think she should say it.
I feel like that's a moment where Perrin is trying to ape his elders instead of just be in command.
Exactly.
He's trying to be, and he's trying to be in command. And so he's like, well, I've seen my elders make this, say these two young people need to get married, and I see these two people mooning. Maybe I should be the one to say they should get married. Which, again, is so ridiculous because he just gave up all his power. The fact that he just gave up his power and he's trying to literally marry people. What? Which is just,
Yeah, it's so ridiculous.
And it's just, Perrin's never quite this obtuse. He's slow thinking, but he rarely thinks in contradictions.
Yeah. He's doing his best Lenny impression without understanding what makes Lenny work.
So Morgase chews him out, rightfully.
Yeah, which unfortunately means sort of stomping on Talonvor's hopes and dreams temporarily. And she regrets that, but she does it anyway.
She's like, I will marry you when you ask nicely at the right time. Not right now.
Exactly. And she's going to tell him that just as soon as she, eavesdrops a little bit.
Yeah, no, and as much as we do criticize Sanderson, he did finish the books and in a satisfying way, right? There's weak points to point out, but
No, we will mercilessly point out the weak points because we will also be unabashedly praising the high points. We're allowed. We get equal amplitude in both directions.
A little bit about the guy Shine and how they're adapting to being free and like pretty normal stuff. I don't know. Do we know how guy Shine work?
It's just the whole looking through at familiar things through unfamiliar eyes. Yeah, it's just, Sanderson playing with I get to write familiar stuff through eyes that we don't usually look through. And yeah, Morgase is weirdly clueless about how Aiel work, given she spent such an intense amount of time with them. But whatever, these are not Shido, which is different.
There are 11 chapters with Morgase's POV, 4 of which are in this book.
Yeah, we don't get to see out of her eyes much, but sometimes. And she's sort of thinking about stuff and how she should apologize to Talonvor when her attention gets caught by maidens racing into the camp to tell Perrin not about a blight village this time. This time it is about the White Cloaks.
Yes. It was like a fake out in the last chapter. It was like, is it the White Cloaks? No.
It basically.
It's the blight. We're going to burn that. Now it's the White Cloaks. But yeah, so that's and the White Cloaks have been seeking them out, right? Because they found their scouts and heard where they'd be coming from. Yeah. And so the White Cloaks have been marching backwards to encounter Perrin. And so, surprise, surprise, here we are.
Yeah. And I believe you mentioned a long time ago that this is one of the last things that Sulin does on the page, is bring news of the White Cloaks to Perrin. Like, she basically drops off the face of the earth. And I believe you said this is her last really notable instance. I'm hoping I'm wrong about that.
Let me see. Yeah, she's in a few more chapters here at the end.
Okay, cool.
But
I was wrong.
She's not done yet. And it's possible. I don't see her in Memory of Light, but it's possible that Encyclopedia Watt hasn't necessarily cataloged all of the final book. So
never mind.
I think she's in the last battle. I think
I remember there being just a discussion of like she kind of falls off the face of the earth and it's a bummer. But apparently I'm over exaggerating how complete that was.
I think she arrives back to observe Perrin create Mahalinar. She's part of Perrin's procession when they meet with Elaine in Camelin. And then that's really the last we see of her.
So this is one of the last things that she does that's actually interesting whatsoever. And it's not really that interesting. She's just a messenger.
Yeah, she confirms that Rand battled Ravine and Andor, causing Morgase Trakan to drop her tray in shock, right? So.
Oh, that's important. That's actually helpful.
And she's like there when the bubble of evil where the weapons come to life.
Right, yeah. I remember her in that fight.
So she's...
Okay, cool. Never mind. I'm panicking prematurely.
Yeah.
We still got more Sulin to get through.
We got more Sulin. But yeah, she's not really a force. She doesn't really say a lot in any of those things. She's just sort of there, I think.
I really wanted to see more Sulin. Like, for some reason, she's one of those really small characters that I'm particularly hurt by not getting more of. Like, there's lots that I'm like, yeah, we should have had more of them. But Sulin, I'm like, she was so intensely present during, like, Fires of Heaven. And then she just drops off the face of the earth.
You wanted her to get the Talonvor treatment.
Exactly. She's just, of all the Aiel baddies, she's one of the baddest. I mean, baddies in the good way, not in the evil way. And yeah, Face of the Maidens, and it's just... Oh, well. Anyway.
Yeah, it seems weird that she wasn't more of a force leading the maidens in the last battle, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, because you had the wise ones fighting with the one power. I don't feel like we saw a lot of the maidens.
I think they went honor guarding a lot of different people, like wise ones and sister wives of wise ones.
And weren't they guarding Rand at the Shale Ghul because they carry his honor?
Right, exactly. I think they were really just doing honor guard stuff. I don't think they were out on the front lines. Because, they're the maidens. They're the elitist of the elite. So yeah, that's the end of what I have for the chapter.
Yep, same. Next chapter. Hey, we get a little bit of a land break in between the Perrin stuff. So just a slight... a breeze of fresh air coming in as you are saturated in the blight. Just that hint of, before you go back to smelling, the blight. Lighter than a feather. And we have the heron-marked sword, because it's land. The air felt calmer at night, though the thunder still warned Lan that not all was well. In his weeks traveling with Bulin, that storm above seemed to have grown darker. After riding southward, they continued on to the east. They were somewhere near the border between Kandor and Saldaea, on the plain of lances. Towering, weathered hills, steep-sided like fortresses, rose around them. Perhaps they'd missed the border. There often was no marker on these back roads, and the mountains cared not which nation tried to claim them. "Master Andra," Bulin said from behind. Lan had purchased a horse for him to ride, a dusty white mare. He still led his pack horse, Scouter. Bulin caught up to him. Lan insisted on being called Andra. One follower was bad enough. If nobody knew who he was, they couldn't ask to come with him. He had Bulin to thank, inadvertently, for the warning of what Nynaeve had done. For that, he owed a man a debt. Bulin did like to talk, though. "Master Andra," Bulin continued, "if I may suggest, we could turn south at the burnt crossroads, yes? I know a waypoint in that direction that serves the very best quail. We could turn eastward again on the road to South Metler, a much easier path. My cousin has a farm along that road, cousin on my mother's side, Master Andra, and we continue this way. But South Metler is a much better roadway, and therefore much better traveled too, Bulin." Bulin sighed but fell silent. The Hadori looked good around his head, and he had proven surprisingly capable with the sword, as talented a student as Lan had seen in a while.
So he's almost as good as Rand with the sword?
Right?
Is that what I'm hearing? We've got a contender?
There's a certain amount, I think someone said, like, isn't it odd that all of these butchers and bakers suddenly find themselves with a talent for swords, and all these old soldiers fight, like, yeah. I feel like there's a certain amount of, like, the pattern is pulling on people and making them ready in this moment to fight the last battle.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I mean, really, in many ways, Bulin was kind of tapped by the pattern early on because he did interact with Lan briefly in New Spring, right? He was always destined to be with Lan's final charge and to last until near the very end of the battle. Like, that was kind of always his destiny ever since that first fateful moment 20 years ago.
Mm-hmm. And, of course, this is Lan's ridiculous desire to hide from his destiny, which is leading a bunch of troops in the last battle who are going to support the king, right? I mean,
it's slightly cuter than when Perrin does it, but it's still annoying.
It's a little annoying. It's a little cuter because he gives in.
Yeah.
And he doesn't, like, bitch about it forever and ever and ever.
And he's not regressing.
Yeah, he's not regressing.
This is how he has been for 20 years. He has been pulling this line. This is exactly who he's been the whole books.
And by the time he gets 20,000 troops, he's like, yeah, I got an army, right? Like, deal with it. We're attacking, right? Like, that's... Perrin, on the other hand, is trying to send his troops away.
Yeah. Lan gives in and admits what's happening at, like, hundreds. He does not need to get to 20,000 and still be like, I don't know. But for now, he's still in denial, and it is very much an echo of Perrin's issues. You're like, wow, sometimes I guess this is just how people are. This is just a thing people do.
And if that 20,000 number is off, forgive me, I don't think I confirm that. We keep quoting it. It's close enough.
It's an army, whatever.
Right. Whatever number they decided to make up.
Exactly. So, yeah, they go along the road and they see a little inn, a little tiny town, and then there's some men and they start stalking them, and then it turns into a really funny repartee.
Right. We're not following you. You're following us.
Well, I command you not to follow me. Well, we're technically in front of you, so also you're not a king. I would obey a king, but I don't see any kings here. Like, it's really funny. They're all very
well
much
written. Yeah.
Yeah, these are clever men playing with Lan, being like, no, silly boy, you don't get to do this on your own. And the Lan's like, but we're riding to death. And they're like, bro, death is lighter than a feather.
Lighter than a feather.
Don't you know that makes the trip easier? Like, what are you talking about? Why are you trying to save us from death? Death is cool.
Come on, man. It's your catchphrase,
Literally,
bro. Like, seriously.
Trolling him in the best way. I love it.
It is. It's a well done troll, because it's like you either take authority, in which case we're following our king, or you don't take authority, in which case you can't tell us what to do.
You don't own the roads, dude. Unless you were the king. I mean, obviously, then you would own the roads.
Unless you're the king. And if you're the king, sure, yeah. I mean, obviously. But then we're riding with our king to battle, so you can't stop us either way. So, I mean, it's a really, it's a clever, fun romp. It's a fun moment with Lan where the people around him frustrate his self-destructive desires, which is something that, like, for me is really important in fantasy books.
Yes.
that like, oh, what was the series I used to love? The last Herald Mage was a trilogy by Mercedes Lackey, and both some of my first LGBT media, right? Because the main character's gay, and then just this being very self-destructive, right? And being saved and then like nursed back to health and cared for by the people around them. Like, I think there's just really important themes in that book that I also see a little bit here.
Yeah, and you like to see it. You like to see a flawed hero actually be meaningfully helped by the people around them. That is a thing that you want to see positively modeled in your fantasy media. It is good for your brain to see that as an option.
Like a sacrifice being appreciated.
Yeah, and like, yeah, Lana's still being annoying at this point, but we know what it's building to, so it's fun to see how his followers also know what it's building to and are just going to indulge his little fantasy until he gets over himself.
The 2 had become 5. So he gets these 2 Malchieri and one other guy. I don't even think is Malchieri. He's just, I'm riding with
He's
him.
He's a Saldane.
Yeah.
Well, because the Malchieri are all over the Borderlanders, right? So any given Borderlander might know a Malchieri and be like, yeah, I'll sign on. That's a good GoFundMe. That's a good Kickstarter.
I want to fight in the last battle, right? Like, and because what's interesting, right? All the armies have traveled south to meet with Rand. So who are all these warriors who are left behind joining up with him, right? These are the people who are put down their sword and became farmers, who were merchants, who are picking the sword back up again. You know, this one guy's over 70, right? He's retired. Like, it's a very like not normal group of warriors. He's picking up just sort of the edges of the fact that, you know, everyone in the Borderlanders knows how to fight. Very Aiel in that way.
Yeah, and they all want to spit inside Blander's eye, very Aiel, right? They all want to do that. And so, of course, they all want to join up with the mythic king who's willing to take the crusty, old, hard core of the Borderlands and lead them in a singular, impressive strike. Like, of course, men of all nations want to get on board with following literal King Arthur in the flesh. Like, who wouldn't? And yeah, Lana's just like, but I don't wanna. It's like, come on! Everyone else wants you to.
And let's be honest, it's a good bet because Rand fucking saves the day, right? Like, it's Lan is saved by Rand in that moment. And so those people do ride one of the most successful raids to lead off the last battle, right? They fight and they end up fighting for a very, very long time. And a lot of them do die, but it's just incredibly successful as one of the first battles of the last battle.
Yeah. And Nynaeve played a really large role in making that happen because Lan finally allowed himself to get married and fall in love and all that stuff. He ends up with the Dragon Reborn pulling it on your left at the last possible minute.
Nice. Yeah. Sanderson did it before Endgame, for sure.
For sure. And I only know about the Endgame thing because so many people have referenced it. I have not actually watched Endgame. This is entirely cultural osmosis.
I have. I enjoyed the moment. I thought it was very well done.
You are part of the osmosis that has gotten it into my brain.
Mm-hmm.
So POV switch over to a leader who actually admits he is a leader.
To Galad. It feels like there's just this like slot machine of leader. Here's how to be a leader. Here's how not to be a leader. Here's how to be a leader. You know.
Yeah, and this Galad POV sort of flickers in and out of Perrin's POV for the rest of the chapter. It's like really like a quick
this was
back
so
and
hard
forth.
to navigate.
So like we could just talk about the one and then talk about the other because flipping back and forth it's silly. It's too short.
Yeah. But it feels like he's trying to build tension by flipping back and forth, like showing these things going on at the same time. But there's just too many cuts and too little going on for that to really be significant. It kind of feels like they're cutting him off like midway through each sentence to flip back.
Basically. So I say we just talk about the Galad scene and then go back and talk about the Perrin.
Okay.
So yeah, Galad is having breakfast. They're both having breakfast. Again, we're very time synced here. And Bayar comes in and says, I have even more information. I have even more to unveil. This Pandora's box goes farther. And then we get all the way back to Perrin's original sin, which is not the two rivers. It's not the golden eyes. It's those two random white cloaks that he wolf raged on back in book 1. And that is going to be the core of why Galad thinks that he has a right to prosecute Perrin for murder and is going to take all that time for a trial. It's all about these two random White Cloak dudes that died before we ever knew their names in book freaking 1. It's Perrin's original trauma after leaving the Two Rivers, aside from all the other traumas he suffered literally that same day. It's all looping back around. Galad is finally getting looped into that over breakfast.
No mention of the, what was it, tens of White Cloaks him and Gaul chopped to pieces in the, because there's no witnesses. Nobody saw them,
but she's not going to volunteer that information. And Lan and Moraine, but neither of them are likely to come to bear on the situation.
That was the thing that made Fael get into Perrin in the first place.
That is a lot of dead White Cloaks.
She's like, oh, this man can stand up to my dad. Oh, those were the good days.
Yeah. But yeah, Galad keeps pushing back with, you sound like a questioner. And then Bayar keeps being like, but this is different. I have real receipts. And Galad is unfortunately willing to listen. I guess it's good to listen to all the facts, but he is easily swayed by Bayar's interpretation.
And let's not forget that Bayar has, I believe this is totally canon. Bayar has been compelled by Grendel to hate Perrin and try to assassinate him. And
when did that happen? Did we had canon that was like back in book 2 or so, or is?
Yeah, it's super early on. It might be book 4, but it's at some point, I think after the White Cloaks are like, I think it's book 4, because after they're busted up in the Two Rivers, they have to travel cross country. Or maybe maybe you're right. Book 2, it's after the Shan-Chan battle.
Yeah, I thought that the high canon was that it happened in the aftermath of Falm.
That's true, yes. In the aftermath of Falm, he has to travel back to Laodicea to meet with the White Cloaks, and that path takes him right through where Grendel is. And so the assumption is he stumbled onto her fortress or was close enough that he was brought within her influence, and at that point was compelled to be her little... And then at some point we also see her mention her little final like hidden dagger. I can't remember the phrasing right now, but there's at some point she talks about a trap that's hidden in plain sight.
Yeah. Her last secret weapon or something like that.
Her last secret weapon. And then that's why Bayar tries to basically assassinate Perrin, is that he's been compelled.
Right. And that's why Bornhold has to kill him, is because Bayar is doing an illegal extrajudicial, murder, and that's not cool. Yeah. So, yeah. But also, Galad is listening to facts, and Bayar does have quite the compelling tale that he relates here while Galad's breakfast porridge goes cold about how the Two Rivers went down, which again, I feel like Galad could be applying a lot more critical thinking to this story because Bayar's take on what happened at the Two Rivers makes no sense. Perrin brought Dark Friends and Shadowspawn to the Two Rivers, which is full of Dark Friends, in order to terrorize the Two Rivers into following him as Dark Friends, and that's how you know that he's a Dark Friend. It's just very circular logic, and I'm impressed that Galad has no follow-up questions.
Especially after his big speech about how, sometimes you mistake people who disagree with us for Dark Friends, and it's like, yeah, like Perrin, right? Like, why are you taking, this guy just called everybody in the circle of everything that happened Dark Friends, and maybe some of them weren't. Maybe some of them were just disagreeing with him.
Yeah.
Maybe some of them were just influenced by, I don't know, Pat and Fane, like the White Cloaks.
Yeah, exactly.
Or, yeah, it's, okay. No, it's frustrating that Galad, you never like it when stupidity is what pushes the plot forward. And it's like, just, why are you buying this story?
Yeah.
Be critical. Be just a little critical.
I want follow-up questions rather than remembering that one time that a boy from the Two Rivers kicked your ass with a stick. Right? It's cute that there's a little callback to Matt and the staff fight, but a follow-up question on any of Bayar's claims would have been more useful for plot. So yeah, he's just making his accusations. Oh, he killed these two White Cloaks. He was at Falma. He killed Bornhold's father. Just, charge after charge after charge.
All the encounters that we've seen, right? Over and over and over again. And we're going to go over these so many times during the trial. And I feel like we go over these events tons in this book.
Oh, yeah. And then Galad says, oh, okay, cool. So what are we going to do about that? And Bayar essentially says, we're gonna buy our way into Galad. We're going to free the Galadan queen from her fealty to this horrible Shadowspawn, and then it'll be a new Amadisia, and we'll be able to make Galad great again, and it's going to be awesome. And Galad is, again, very uncritically intrigued by this prospect.
And just like, that's not how the politics are actually working. Like, she's not enslaved to him at all. She's supporting him wholeheartedly. Like, there's all these issues with his plan, right? Because like,
and then he does the back and forth of like, well, they're just farmers. We can get rid of them so easily. Also, farmers are super dangerous. And Galad, for once, does have a critical thought and says, you can't have it both ways, dude. Are they dangerous or are they not dangerous? Like, pick one. But again, this is not enough follow-up, Galad.
yeah. And the reality is that, like, yeah, they're dangerous to the White Cloaks because the White Cloaks are a terrible fighting force. Absolutely atrocious.
Yeah, and then Galad says, well, if everything you told me is true, I need to offer formal battle with Perrin and Barrow. Like, dude, please say that if again slower to yourself. Like, it's ridiculous that you just take what you know is a biased, bigoted zealot, and you're just taking his word on it and saying, well, I guess I'm going to have to commit our inferior fighting force to a suicide mission in order to enact justice on your word alone. It's ridiculous. Bad leadership. He embraces being a leader, but he's doing bad things with that leadering. Annoying.
The correction, the 20,000 soldiers is the number of White Cloaks. Perrin's army is bigger. So more than 20,000.
Okay, yeah. 20,000 and growing rapidly.
Yeah.
So, back to Perrin?
I think so. Is that it for...
Yeah, that's it for the Galad Bayar conversation.
God, there's one more paragraph right there at the end. And it's just like, why is that paragraph even in there? It says nothing. It means nothing.
So now to recap Perrin's breakfast conversation. He has this whole running dialogue about the eating meat for breakfast thing, which I think is hilarious because I'm a big fan of eat breakfast for dinner and dinner for breakfast.
And protein's good for breakfast.
Mm-hmm. Lots of people eat meat for breakfast. The Fael saying it's strange to eat meat for breakfast is just a weird classism thing. Don't do that. Don't judge people's breakfast choices.
Well, how many people eat bacon and eggs for breakfast? That's basically what he's having is ham, which is basically bacon and eggs.
I mean, in America, far too many people have bacon and eggs for breakfast every day.
I think there's a little bit of a meta commentary about like Fael being, I can't believe you eat that. And it's like the most common American breakfast that people eat all the time.
I think it's supposed to communicate something about how he is embracing his wolfy nature and it's coming out more as he like does the wolf thing. He gets more wolfy. I think that's what it's supposed to be a commentary on, but it also does feel like a weird sideways jab at American breakfast culture.
Right. But yeah, him just being like, oh yeah. And again, this is sort of the reversion. Like, I feel like he accepted the fact that he ate meat and like chunks of meat a long time ago. Like, again, back in book 4, that was a thing where he was like, oh yeah, I eat meat and I'm like kind of liking that more than eating porridge for breakfast.
Yeah, but we got to reiterate it because Sanderson needs to write that. And Gaul comes in and him and Perrin sit on the floor and talk about scouty stuff to do with the White Cloaks because, again, we're bringing these two forces together, so we have to see the docking procedure from both sides. And Gaul is the messenger in this case.
And he said he basically was scouting with Elias. Elias used his wolf eyes to see the faces of the captives, which included Basil Gill. So, yes, they have our people.
And also we recognized the carts and the equipment. Like, there's no reason to think that this isn't what's happening. And then we get a little bit of insight into how Gaul is still having issues with Bane and Chiad in that really adorable, funny taming of the shrew antagonism sort of thing. He says something about how it would be better to have the Dark One himself as Guyshine than those two. It's like, aw, they like you. They're mean to you because they like you. This is adorable. Nothing problematic to unpack here.
But a lot of telling in this chapter. He's talking about how they're mean to him. We're not seeing them be mean to him, you know?
Yeah. So then Gaul brings in news that Balwer says that it is the Lord Captain Commander who is in camp. We don't have a personal sigil yet. We just have an official sigil. And Perrin gets all flashbacky about White Cloak higher-ups because of that night 2 years ago. And again, telling us this is going to keep looping back into my path over and over again until I resolve it. Like, okay, you just went to therapy for the first time and you've learned that cycles repeat until you learn your lesson. Good.
Is there any difference between the Lord Captain Commander's banner when it changes hands from person to person, or is it just the same Lord Captain's?
I think it's the same. I think it doesn't change.
Okay. So there's no way to know, like, this is Galad from the fact that it's Lord Captain Commander's banner.
I believe that Galad signs a letter later with his personal sigil, but that is not incorporated into the sigil of the office. I could be wrong about what he signs with later, but I know that the sigil doesn't change when the leadership changes. Like you said before, it's like the seal for the president of the United States. It doesn't get updates.
Got it.
Yeah, Gaul says we can totally kick their asses. That would be easy. And Perrin says, I'd rather not, because that's how he feels about conflict. And then he ends the chapter with saying, well, I guess we'll try to talk first, and then I'll punch them in the face if I have to.
And he's like, the pattern's just going to keep looping them back around in front of me until I deal with it, right? It's like my problems are going to keep popping back up until I deal with them.
Therapy 101. Congratulations. We're glad you've started the path.
So there's that little bit of like bit about the pattern and like how he's sort of realizing that this is the severeness and the pattern that's like forcing him to deal with these things before he can go back to Rand. And he's got this tugging in him that makes him want to go back. So he's like, okay, I can't delay anymore. I've got Fail. I have to deal with these things so that I can get me and all of my armies back to Rand and the last battle.
Yep. There it is.
We'll give the children a chance to return our people, and if they don't, well then, we'll see. We will see.
In exhaustive, excruciating, painstaking, granular detail. We will see. And with that, in under an hour, we got through that.
2 chapters in under an hour. Whoo, boy. There was a lot of filler in those chapters, that's for sure.
If it's a show rather than tell chapter, we have a lot less to say. The spoilers thing is to figure out what's happening. If we're just being told, there's a lot less material for us to work with.
Yeah, we need to see things going on and like make connections on our own. But when we're just told what's going on, it's like, yeah, we can read it. You can read it. How's your reading comprehension? Pretty good? Cool.
Yeah.
And it's why the reason, I think that Sanderson is not as a grown-up or well-written author as someone like Robert Jordan, because there is that like level of always kind of telling you what's happening and not letting you figure it out for yourself. So there's just that slightly less level of engagement that you need to, and journey that you need to go on. And it's why I've been enjoying reading Dungeon Crawler Carl so much.
I was going to hand you that mic and be like, tell us something positive about a thing you've been enjoying for the after show. The people deserve more content.
Okay, all right. Since we're going for more content, and I know I've been talking about this, but I feel like I've been damning it with faint praise because, like, I really don't think I gave it a chance when I first dug into it because I was like, oh no, a video game leveling book is just not going to be that good. And the first book certainly like is kind of what I was expecting, with a lot of, sort of funny, dark humor built in, but a lot of game mechanics and stuff like that. And I was like, okay, I'm enjoying this. But then as it grew, I gotta say, the background characters and the number of things that are happening between the characters, both in the dungeon and with the, not want to spoil it too much, but with the group that created the dungeon, and the politics between those, and the way that a lot of other characters have their own plot lines that are very much going on in the background, do remind me a lot of the way that the Wheel of Time feels like a very rich, real world, because you have all these plot lines going on, and sometimes they don't tell you what the connections are. But when you figure one of those out, it's a very rewarding, like, oh, that character's name they're married to this character with a different name, and that's why there's this, chain of hate or, reason to dislike somebody. And yeah, I'm enjoying it quite a bit. I think the characters are really well written. I think the twists are pretty good. The battles are very bloody, and there's some real, body horror, right? Like these are real people in video game situations, so there's some real like people getting squished, but then like that's not just like a little mushroom that gets squished and goes away. That's a body. So you have to be careful if you're a little squeamish, I think, about some of the scenes for sure. But he's sort of hit what I would call a halfway point in the series. It might not be the halfway point in the books, right? I think he's only, I don't know if this is true or not, but he may, if it's a 10-book series, he's written 7, right? So he's got sort of 3 books to finish it off. But at least in terms of the number of floors in the dungeon, he's hit a halfway point. And so there was a lot of sort of, in the early books, he was writing a lot about what's going to happen on these first 9 levels out of the 18. And I think there's sort of a fulfillment of a lot of promise, right? We've gotten to level 9, which in a lot of ways, whether you want to call it the halfway point or sort of a significant stopping off point before however he's going to finish it up, which, at this point could be, he could go a lot of different ways. I don't know how he's going to go, but at least at this point, I feel like he's given us a lot of resolution on a lot of the things that there's still plenty of plot lines going forward, but like, I trust him to write a good conclusion to the whole series based on what he's given us so far. And the fan base, fandom looks fun. It looks positive. People are still really sort of enjoying the silliness of it. And there's something that's like, there's a lot of very cosplayable characters, right? And so when you have a lot of recognizable characters, it's very easy to create these groups of people who look very similar and obviously are like wearing a uniform. There's lovable characters and stuff like that. It's wacky fun. It's like, it's obviously not taking itself too seriously, but as it evolves and gets more complicated, it brushes on more serious topics. And you're like, oh, I was reading this for fun, and now I'm thinking about like social, political, structures of various countries and our world, and that's weird. And I didn't expect to be doing that based on this series at all.
Sneaky.
Yeah, it's well done.
Cool.
And then just like, some of the characters like start off as what you think might be 2-dimensional characters, but you get into some of their personal trauma, both going back before the end of the world and after. And with the added benefit of like anybody could die at any time. These are very real stakes, and he kills off some, lovable characters pretty quickly. There's some characters you think are going to be part of it to the end, and you're like, oh no, they're dead. Oh shit. that's the end of that one.
Getting all Melanie Ron on our asses. Wow. Well, I'm glad that's been enjoyable. That sounds really cool and fun.
It's just, I highly recommend it to anybody who's looking for a fun book. I think if you liked the Bobaverse, I think if you like any Andy Weir stuff, I think that like, and if you're okay with stuff being just a little more bloody, this is sort of that same male first-person perspective telling a fun, not quite serious story about aliens and how you deal with them.
I mean, this is an evergreen genre.
yeah, for sure.
Very cool. I'm not reading anything of equal interest. I mean, I just started a new book, so I'm not really like invested in it yet, but it's called The Other Americans, and the audiobook actually has 6 narrators for the 6 different POVs. I've only heard 3 of them so far because I'm reading it like with my grandma, but yeah, it's not an audio drama with sound effects and music. It's more like Michael and Kate, just switching back and forth, except that there's a full cast of 6 people doing that. So that's slightly different. But it's a fiction book about people being immigrants in the United States and being othered and stuff. So we'll see how that goes. It's, I mean, I like it so far, but I'm 2 chapters in, so it's hard to say, or 3 chapters. I don't know. Yeah, I'm currently re-listening to An Immense World, which is about animal senses, and I'm about to, I think, restart listening to How the South Won the Civil War, which actually I think I read that. I didn't listen to it. And my mom says that the audiobook is really good. It's actually the author narrating her own book, and she's good at it. So I think I might re-listen to that, but that's not fun. That's a book that will make you very depressed and understand what the future holds because the past rhymes with the future.
No thanks. I'm going for sticking my head deep into the sand for the times when I'm reading. Yeah,
let's see. I don't have much in the escape. An Immense World is really good for escapism. It's real. It's nonfiction, but it has nothing to do with things that will make you depressed, except for like I guess whales having noise pollution in the ocean is kind of bad.
Oh, and if you have any suggestions for dealing with plantar fasciitis, please send me suggestions. My left foot's been hurting. But anything that particularly that worked, if you've had that, I don't know, I think you'll have to include this, but yeah, anything that helps with it. It's not fun. Not fun. So I'm working on just icing and stretching and ibuprofen for inflammation.
But you have not yet quit your job, which we all know is the real solution.
Yes, obviously. Right. No, that's unfortunately, I'm not allowed to do that.
That's a bummer. That really sucks. All right. So send us your escapist book recommendations and plantar fasciitis dealing with suggestions. If you're still listening to the podcast at this point, you definitely have one or both of these answers available to share with us. So I do expect comments in our email and in the Discord.
Either you're immobile or you love to read. You got to be listening to us for some reason.
Thank you all so much for listening. And yeah, we'll see you next week.
See you next week.
Thank you for listening to the Wheel of Time Spoilers podcast. Please rate and review us on your podcast app, and consider supporting us on Patreon for ad-free episodes. What Spoilers is a production of Fox and Raven Media. For more podcasts from Fox and Raven Media, visit our website at foxandravenmedia.com.